Now with more on the government shutdown is NBC's Alice Barr joining us from Washington. Alice, thanks for being with us. Let's talk more about this major curveball from President Trump overnight. Where did this call for the nuclear option come from? And tell us how it's being received on Capitol Hill this morning.
Yeah, listen, the filibuster, doing away with the filibuster, or at least partially doing away with it, is something that comes up in every Congress every time there's a big intransigent issue, which is always. So both parties have threatened to do away with it or to put it aside for one particular issue. And President Trump is now suggesting that that be done in order to get the government reopened. And again, the bottom line with the filibuster is that it requires for most votes that there be 60 members that sign on to get something passed. There are only 53 Republicans in the Senate, so they can't do it on their own. And they've gotten a couple Democrats who've been voting along with them in order to pass a short-term funding bill to reopen the government, but not enough to get to that 60 vote threshold. So, you know, it's been almost a full month now. There are a lot of deadlines piling up, chief among them now this SNAP low-income food assistance deadline that's going to run out of money tomorrow. Very real impact for people all over the country. And it's becoming more and more politically untenable to keep the government shut down. So President Trump is saying it's time to skip all the negotiations and to go to the nuclear option to use the filibuster. Now, the top Republican in the Senate, John Thune, has long been a vocal critic, vocally opposed to getting rid of the filibuster. It's a Pandora's box, because if you do it now, if the Senate Republicans do it, that's opening the possibility that Democrats could do it the next time they're in power for any kind of top priority. And it's something that is called the nuclear option for a reason. People often step right to the edge and then step back.
Alice, it's interesting because the SNAP benefits that you just touched on, we just talked to someone about how it's going to impact here in Georgia. That is really a sticking point that makes me think of the term, you know, it's leaving politicians with a lot of blood on their hands, right? If people are going to start going hungry. How is this blame game being dealt with by congressmen and senators?
Yeah, I mean, when you put that kind of a fine point on it, this is something that you cannot argue with. That I heard your last guest say, hunger is not political. This is something that affects people all over the country and affects constituents, to, you know, put another fine point on it, for Republicans and Democrats alike. So what we've been hearing is Democrats have been pushing for a standalone measure that would only use contingency funds, emergency on-hand funds, to extend those benefits. Republicans have rejected that, and we heard from the top Republican in the House Speaker Mike Johnson, that he argued that if you start doing things piecemeal like that, then that only incentivizes, he thinks, Democrats to continue to stand in the way of that short-term funding bill that would reopen the government entirely and allow paychecks to begin flowing and all of the other things. And Republicans are also accusing Democrats of political theater with this effort to do a standalone bill on SNAP, because they say they're just trying to cover their own consequences of their own actions in allowing the government to remain closed.
But this is interesting here, Alice. Congress can't find common ground on reopening the government, but Democrats and some Republicans, they did come together in a bid to block President Trump's tariffs. So got about 30 seconds to explain how that happy medium came about.
Yeah, the Senate voted 51-47 for Republicans crossing over to block President Trump's global tariffs and restore congressional authority over trade policy. They're arguing that prices are going up, American businesses have too much uncertainty. The measure, though, the Democrats forced to the floor is largely symbolic, because it's just not going to get anywhere in the Republican-controlled House.
All right, Alice, thanks so much. Always breaking it down from D.C. We appreciate it, and we'll see you back here next week.